Challenging at best. There was a time when there was a pretty good definition of what society expected of men, and there were particular roles that you had to accomplish, such as perhaps being the breadwinner. But to say that today is politically incorrect. But I think if you look at the definition, in my opinion, of what a man is, it's really to set standards, to have a value system, not only for yourself, and to exercise that value system, but to demand, especially your children, what you expect of them as far as values are concerned. And don't compromise it, even though from time to time it might be easier to compromise it rather than to enforce it. I think the biggest challenge is to understand that for all that you think and all that you do, the biggest challenge is to be able to deal with the information technology that you've got to navigate, be it either Facebook or Twitter or whatever the case is. I don't even know how to say some of those things, but I think the biggest challenge is understanding it. In fact, once again, I go to my grandchildren now, and they come to my house, and the first thing I tell them is, you leave whatever you have in your hand in the car. You come here, we talk and look each other in the eye, and we have a conversation. We'll go in the woods, we'll do something, but you're not going to be tying up your time here on anything that you might bring. So they don't like that, but they do it. And so I got one little wise guy, to say, well, everybody does it. Everybody uses these. I said, that's the exact point. Everybody uses them in the United States. The kids in Korea make them. And that's the challenge. You've got to be able to get an education, and it's not going to be through using somebody else's thing that they made. You've got to be smart enough to make it and have somebody else use it. And I think that point normally gets across if you drive it home properly. We have got to get away from this political correctness crap. If there is ever a demise to the United States, it will be because of political correctness. And I think the biggest challenge that society's got to understand is everybody can't be correct all the time. I used to tell my kids, and I told my staff on many occasions, a popular decision is most times a wrong decision. An unpopular decision, on the other hand, most times is the right decision. But only you are charged with that responsibility of making it. So when you make that decision, you make it in the best interest of whatever you're doing, either for your family or your organization. And you know that you will lose friends who are allegedly friends through the way, because you made a decision that they didn't necessarily subscribe to, but on the other hand, they didn't have the responsibility or accountability for that decision. So I think the biggest challenge society has is we're going to have to understand that behind all this information technology and that we have out there, there's also a human being that has a responsibility to think, to make decisions that may not be popular. I would say that probably General Holland, who was my predecessor. He was the Adjutant General for some 22 years, and I came in as a private. I was in the Guard before he was. I came in '57. He didn't come in until '61. But from that time, we kind of bonded. And I was still enlisted soldier, and I didn't go to OCS until '62 and became a lieutenant in 1962. And he was most influential and certainly served as my mentor from the rank of second lieutenant all the way up to including his endorsement for my being appointed as the Adjutant General of the state. So I see many of the values that he shared.
Someday when you're going?
Probably that whatever I did was always done in the best interest of whatever I was doing. If it was a father, I was always obviously more concerned about what my kids were going to grow up to be and what they would achieve. And I can tell you now, I did a good job. you know, if you ask me, they're all well, they're married, they have children, they have jobs, and they're well educated, so that's good. As far as all of the other things are concerned, and how I'd like to be remembered is, I think as far as the God is concerned, you know, I moved, or at least I was in a position to be able to move the God from a legacy organization to you know, an operational force, and I went through all that, meaning that at one time the God was referred to as weekend warriors, and that still gets me angry when I hear that term. That's no longer the case. So I saw it happen from 1957 when it was just a you know, once in a while snowstorm kind of thing, and to the point where you became a strategic reserve, and you became very much part of the Army. And today the God is the Army. So I saw all that happen, and I think I'd like to be remembered to be able to have navigated the God through that time frame.